what if Deku had the world? So basically, how we start off the story is when Deku's first born, or no. I'll give you a description of how he's gonna look. Actually, no, I'll do that later. So back to what I was saying. We start off the story with Deku's birth, as he's born with blonde hair. Um, his quirk activates, so the doctors can't near him to run tests to make sure he's healthy. So he eventually, after like about 5 hours, they end up getting a hero. This pro hero is Eraserhead. And Eraserhead basically like restrains Deku's quirk, and he asks Inko, "Where's the dad?" And this is what Inko says. Well, he kind of left after he found out I was pregnant, and this is when Aizawa was pissed at hearing that, but he understood people had their reasons, so he didn't push her too much. But after they ran their tests to make sure Deku was fine, they told Inko and him to stay at the hospital until they're better, until like they're like have enough energy to go back to their home, which eventually they do. So now he's time skip to Deku in elementary school. So Deku knows he has a quirk, but he can't activate, so people begin to suspect that he's quirkless. And Bakugo even sort of makes fun of him for this, so they're not friends. But Bakugo one day is making fun of this kid and ends up like bullying the kid by using his quirk on him. His goons are picking on him by like flying around him, teasing him. Which Deku's like knocked it off Kachan, and he's like, "What are you gonna do about Deku?" So like, like when Bakugo tries to punch Deku or use his quirk, something punches Bakugo in the face, sending Bakugo flying. Everyone like Bakugo's goons are mortified to see, or scared to see, like this giant man behind Deku, and he just punches them, and the goons run away, and they say like, "Hey Bakugo, we're done here," and they just run away to go somewhere else around the playground, which Bakugo gets knocked out, which Deku's quirk disappears after a little bit, but then we time skip to Deku. Actually, no, I'll give you more information about this. So basically, after this, they get sent to a principal office. Bakugo and his goons and stuff. Bakugo gets expelled for when they find out what he's been doing. He gets transferred to a different school, and after that, Deku and Bakugo have not seen each other. Will not be in the same middle school. So basically, we time skip to Deku in middle school. And it's actually the day of the altitude test things, and the teacher's like, "Alright, since you all have to figure out what you're gonna do with your lives, I'm giving you all tests." And of course everyone just groans like, "Oh, this is so boring." And this is when the teacher starts laughing and says, "Just kidding, I know all of you want to be heroes," or something like that. Which everyone starts like using their quirk willy-nilly, all the useless quirks, except Deku. He doesn't really use his quirk, which in this version he's more toned like Part 1 Dio. Actually no, not like Part 1 Dio. He's like toned kind of like Josuke. So then yeah. Of course, when the teacher announces for some reason, Deku, you want to go to like UA? And Deku's like, yeah, but everyone starts poking fun at Deku for this, saying, "You'll never make it to UA," saying, "I have a better quirk than all you guys. You guys might get jobs at like noodle shops or something. I mean, all your quirks are really useless. All you can do is stretch your nose out. All you can do is make your body become stone. And all you can do is make your hair just extend large. That's all you can do. Your quirks are pretty useless compared to me." And they're all like pissed, but bell rings, and they leave. Which, since there's like no actual there's no actual like reason for Deku to be late, so he goes to his house the normal way. He doesn't encounter sludge villain, which means Bakugo. No, let's say one of Bakugo's goons dies. Yeah, because they're not important. So yeah. Or no, let's say Bakugo almost dies, but someone helps out trying to save Bakugo, even though they don't know who Bakugo is. And All Might ends up helping them, kind of like how it happened in canon with Deku, except Deku's not there, so it ends up just being some random person receiving one for all. But yeah, when we get the 10 months training for Deku, Yeah, he's trained for 10 months because of the UA entrance exams. So what he wants to research about his body. So he researches like how to get stronger, which he does workouts, which cause him to get taller, stronger, more muscular, and it even leads to Deku being like a bunch more like better, and he's like even like super toned, taller, and he eventually discovers something on this online site called like on his online Reddit posts that no one really believes, but it's like a supposedly this ancient artifact describes something called Hamon, which is apparently the power of the sun, which Deku takes into know, studies a lot about Hamon. After finding enough information on how to use it, he does Hamon training for like most of the 10 months training, and when the rest of them like months, he just like relaxes, trains his body, and just tries to use Hamon. He improves his skill, and he eventually finds out he can stop time for about 11 seconds. Um, and then the UA entrance exam times happen. So Deku, of course, goes to the UA entrance exams since he doesn't mutter at all, like how he did in canon. So Ida doesn't like freak out, and then but he does freak out, like in front of President Mike's presentation, saying, "Mr. President Mike, what's the point of this? The 0 point. Oh, this other robot. You said there's gonna be 3, but there's 4." And so President Mike says, "Oh, well, that's a 0 pointer. Sorry for adding for a mistake. It shouldn't be too important. You have to pay attention to it." And he's like, all right. And then he just sits down. Then we get to the part where Deku goes like outside, where they're going to go get started. Deku tries to go to the front of the line, not to talk to anyone specific, just to get like a good view of where he's going to be going. And Ida stops midway through, saying, "Are you going to distract that pink-haired girl, or that girl with the brown hair?" And he said, "No, I don't know them, so I won't." And I'm trying to get to the front of the line, which he, of course, Ida's like, "Oh, my apologies, I'm sorry." Which Deku does get to the front of the line, but then Prison Mike's like, "Go, go, go!" Everyone goes at other top speeds. Ida and Deku's left her behind, but he wants to do this because what he does at the top of his lungs, he yells, "Come forth, the world time stop," and time stops for Deku. But to everyone else, it looks like he teleported around, but in reality, time stopped for 11 seconds, which he used his stand, or the world, which he found out he can increase its 10-meter radius of being able to use it, because originally he was only able to like use it around 10 meters, but now he can use it for around 50 meters, which is really good, so he can go like farther away. So he just dismantles a bunch of robots, a bunch of them. Then he just teleports around because he's having time, and then the 0 point rubber rumbles, which he sees a pink-haired girl helping out another girl, which Deku sees this girl about to get crushed. So what Deku does is he stops time, flies up, and then he says Hamon Overdrive, and says Muda, which is a keyword for his stand or the world to punch over and over repeatedly at top speed. Which when time resumes, they see this spirit-like man punching over and over and over and over. You know, Deku's like Muda 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 Muda, like it's top of his lungs, and the 0 pointer just gets destroyed from the inside out because the Hamon, and it just falls back. So he eventually flies down and says, "Are you guys okay?" And he says, "Make sure they're good." He makes sure they're fine, so he takes them to the recovery girl, and that's really what happens after UA entry exams. About a week passes by, and he gets the little letter he got saying he entered UA, and this means that Deku ends up going to UA now. He's like he looks like Part 3 Dio basically. That's what he looks like, essentially, Part 3 Dio. So he ends up like he goes to UA for the first time, and he sees his giant doors like, huh, a lot more bigger than I was expecting. And also, I forgot to mention one thing. Aizawa's gonna know Deku because after the hospital incident, after like the hospital, after like how Aizawa helped out at the hospital for like Deku and his quirk when he was a baby, he actually became a family friend around Inko, which ended up leading Aizawa to marrying Inko after like a couple of years, which made Zawa Deku's stepdad, but he still didn't want to move in with her because he said in case a villain attacked, he would want to protect UA and stuff, and she understood he had to do his job and didn't want to bring any danger to us or to her doorstep. So she understood and didn't push Aizawa to move in with them. So when he opens up the door and he sees Aizawa on the floor, he's like, "Dad, what are you doing?" As I was like, "Bruh, did you have to tell them I'm your father?" And everyone's surprised to see that Deku's dad or stepdad is Aizawa, which he explains how it happened, or he doesn't explain it. He just leaves everyone in sort of shock. But he tells them to put their gym outfit on and to go outside. And or Umaraka's like, "What about the UA exit exams?" All right, and he doesn't say that's what he's thinking. That's in the back of his mind. All right, trash can, shut up and just listen up. And this is what he actually says. All right, well, we have 3 years and 3 years only to make you the sharpest pros you have to be. So I'm not wasting you with petty stuff like that. So let's go. And everyone just shuts up and goes. They put their gym outfit on, and in the locker room, Kirishima points out Deku's physique, and he's like, "Whoa, bro, you're jacked." Because I decided to change my mind. Deku's not built like Part 3DO. His hair is built like Part 3DO, but his body's gonna be like tall like Josuke, but he's gonna be jacked like Part 3DO. If that makes any sense. But yeah, Deku's kind of gonna lose his blonde hair, and it's gonna be replaced. His blonde hair is gonna disappear with his natural green hair, which the reason why that's being is because Dio's blood cells inside of him, or like his father's blood cells, kind of died off because of his quirk forming more, becoming his quirk instead of his father's. So the world's not. Well, actually, no. I'm gonna keep it yellow. So basically, Deku looks as kind of like canon, but better, and his hair's still like Dio's from Part 3. So they put the gym outfit on. They go outside, and I was like, "All right, kid, throw us as far as you can." Which Deku just throws it in the air and says, "Muda, muda, muda," and he just says the world and says "muda, muda, muda," and just punches the ball over and over using Hamon, sending it flying all the way from Japan to Miami. Which are most of you are going to be confused about this. It's because, I mean, if this version of Deku's stronger, and if the world's gonna be 10 times stronger, maybe even 20 times stronger, because of Deku's brains, he's definitely gonna be able to do this. Or it's gonna definitely be able to do this. So, after that, everyone else's scores are like in canon. Deku's in first place though. And yeah. The person who actually gets sent home is the Invisible Girl, but as I reveals, this is as a test to see who's like, it's kind of a test to show you like your strengths and stuff. So yeah. He wasn't really going to expel anyone, which Deku knew that. But then the next couple of days are like normal school studies. But then one day, someone barges in saying, "I am here," barging in like a normal person. And everyone's like surprised to see All Might. He's like, "Alright, everyone, today we're going to be doing some villains versus hero training. So, without further ado, get into your hero outfits, because what I like to say is the pros make the clothes. Or I mean, the clothes make the pros. Sorry. So like he parses his mind like a whole drawer of like these suits. Deku is like when Deku grabs his, he feels it has a little bit of weight to it, but he like understands why. And most of you are gonna be confused about why it has like so much weight compared to the others, because when he takes the longest to put together. Everyone else is outside, but when he gets outside, he looks like a deity because his outfit's gonna be like Dio over Heaven's outfit, except instead of having like that facial hair like Star, it's gonna be replaced with a headband that has a star emblem on it. Everyone's like complimenting him about his costume. He's like, "Yeah, I know." So then the teams are. So I'm gonna say the teams are based off of like your strengths. So, let's say this inserted character named Tokyo gets paired with Deku, and Bakugo and Ida get paired together. So, and then we go to like the Deku versus Ida fight, which it's not even that hard. Oh, and Tokyo's abilities are like to make shadow armor and light swords, and he can just make like shadow. For now, you can only make like a shadow shield and a light sword. Nothing too crazy. It's still not powerful, but can do pretty good damage. So he's like, "Alright, you go take care of the bomb, I'll take care of this one." And the guy's like, "Alright, gotcha, I know what you know what you're doing." So when Bakugo tries charging, he's like, "You don't know how to win against me, do you?" And Bakugo is confused about this because Deku charges head first, kicks Bakugo in the head, then he says Hamon 1.1%, because he learned how he's Hamon in percentage. and he's like zoom arm, I think, or long arm. I'm not sure which one it was called, but he just punches Bakugo, which his face is like kind of burning a little bit, leaving like a burn mark of Deku's fist on his eye or like around his eye area. And he's like burn agony, like screaming, saying, "What the hell was that? You damn nerd!" And this is what he says: "Come forth, the world, time stop." And Bakugo's like, "What?" And then time stops. Deku just says "Muna Muna Muna" and punches Bakugo in the face over and over and over, using the world, just dismantling Bakugo in the face. And then he covers them up with capture tape using the world. And he does time stop, time resume, because he learned a way to negate like the 11-second rule to making it he can resume time whenever he wants. So as he does, his Bakugo's like, "What? I was captured?" And then before he can finish another sentence, all like those punches from previous catch up to Bakugo and just get slammed on the ground. He spits out a couple of drops, spits of blood, and then he gets unconscious. He falls unconscious. Then Deku just like flies around, finds the bomb. As he sees him, Tokyo struggling to fight against Ida, he's just like, "Oh, I'll make this easy." He says this, "Come forth, the world, time stop." He stops times and he says, "Time resume." And he touches the bomb, and Momo explains why Deku's the MVP of this, because he actually never did any damage to the building. He was very quick with his job, captured the bomb swiftly and quietly, and that's why he was MVP of this tournament, or like this test, the heroes versus villain test. And then all the other scores are like in canon because I'm lazy. So then a week passes by. They're just doing normal schoolwork, right? Then another week passes by. This is where we get to the USJ arc. They get the permission slip slide. Deku gets to go to USJ, and they go to USJ through the bus, and like Suyu's like, "Who do you think is the strongest?" And everyone at first is like, maybe Bakugo or maybe like Todoroki. But then do you remember what Deku did to Bakugo? So like, "Oh yeah, it's definitely Deku." And Deku laughs a little bit to himself. But Todoroki's like, "What?" Because in reality, Todoroki was actually like not looking at the like security cameras when they were doing the heroes versus villains test. So he didn't see how powerful Deku was. So yeah. So, sorry, I took a bathroom break or a water break. Back to what I was saying. So, Todoroki didn't get to see, like, how powerful Deku was. So, this is a good chance to, like, to show you how powerful Deku really is. So, basically, they get to the USJ facility. Then, 13 gives, like, her blah, 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 yapping speech about how quirks are dangerous and they can kill people. And, honestly, it's very boring. So, but then Deku's like, 13, and she's like, "What is it, kid? Do you have any questions?" And please don't interrupt me next time. Is there supposed to be fake villains? And she questions him about it, saying, "What are you talking about?" Saying, "Behind you." And when she looks behind her, she sees a purple mist form, and Kurogiri says this, "Ah, heroes, sorry. It looks like we have to crush the party." And he just opens this giant warp gate, summon a bunch of villains, and Shigaraki pulls out. They're like scratching his neck like a man-child, and then Nomu appears, which they don't know what it is yet, but you and me both know what it is. So everyone's like seeing this, and I was saying, "This is not a drill. There's no fake villains here. It's supposed to be rescue." And Aizawa just goes down. And this is what happens. He tries to he takes them down pretty quickly. Which when he sees Kurogiri trying to charge at them, but Deku says, "Come forth, the world," and just stops time and just gets out of the way. Then he stops time and gets out of the way. He drags like as much people as he can before the 11 seconds run out, but the rest of them get like teleported away. And Kurogiri's like, "How did you do that? Did you teleport people?" Saying something like that. Deku's like saying mockingly, maybe not. But Kurogiri is annoyed by this. But Deku sees Aizawa taking out villains, but then he sees this, and the Nomu punches all, and just snap his arms like twigs, and he just sees what happens to Aizawa. He gets battered, and this pisses off Deku so much his bloodlust appears, and his hair goes from green to yellow, and his eyes change color to like a reddish brown. And he changes in size, looking taller, and he's pissed. So he says, "The world, destroy that gnome. fight! And he's like, and then he just charges at Korogiri. He says Hamon Overdrive, just punches Korogiri in the metal girder, and he just gets sent Korogiri flying, and the metal girder just gets melted halfway because of Deku's Hamon Overdrive. And Deku charges at the Nomu. He's like, get away from him! And he just says, Mura, 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 Mura. It's like, Mura, 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 just punching the Nomu over and over. But the Nomu has shock absorption, so he just tanks it all. And Deku gets punched, but he doesn't feel anything for some reason. But instead, when the Nomu punches him, Deku grabs the Nomu. This is like the Deku himself getting punched, and he grabs the Nomu, but the Nomu's arm starts to get frozen. And as its arm getting frozen, the Nomu starts to screech out in pain. And Deku realizes he can do this. He's like, the world, Mura Mura. And the Sand just punches repeatedly at top speed. And ice pillars start to appear around the Nomu's face, which the Nomu can't dodge because Deku's holding him with all his force and is getting punched over and over and over. But the Nomu just stabs itself into Deku. Tries to stab itself into Deku, but Deku's like, come forth the world, time stop. He stops time, he gets out of there, and just punches it over and over and over and over, using Hamon and ice to destroy the Nomu completely. And then he learns he can use laser. He can use lasers in that. His eyes start to buzz, and he wipes his eyes, and boom, a laser shot from his eye. And he shoots through the Nomu, realizing he can shoot lasers. So he wonders if he can do something with his stand. So he tries using his stand to shoot lasers, and it works. So they shoot lasers and Hamon and ice, just destroying the Nomu. But the 11 seconds run out, and the Nomu screeches out pain as it's destroyed. Blood splatters from the Nomu. And Deku's like huffing for breath because that took a lot of energy to do. And everyone's like, what? And Deku, unbeknownst to people, one of his support items were knives, or some sort of knife. And he says, come forth to the world, time stop. And he just throws a bunch of knives on the Nomu, punches it over and over. And then, boom, he resumes time. And the Nomu gets stabbed. And this is what he does next. He says, come forth the world, time stop. And time stops. He pulls out like this little toy tractor. And he just like, expand. And it becomes a giant. It's like a full-size tractor, which uses nanotech, which Deku punches over and over and over and over and over, and he just slams onto Nomu, punching the tractor over and over and over, saying Mura 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 Mura, and yeah, and then he says, shrink, and it shrinks down. Deku goes back to his, and then Deku says resume time, and time resumes, and the Nomu screeches out in pain again, getting crushed. And this is when Deku just gets pissed and he shoots lasers at the Nomu's head, and it just causes the Nomu to explode. And this is when Deku looks at Shigaragi's like, your turn, man-child. And he just does a classic Dio pose and starts laughing like Dio, and he just charges like the Nomu Shigaraki. And he's like, the world! Time stop! And when he does this, he punches Shigaraki over and 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 repeatedly. Shoots laser at Shigaraki's shoulder blade, just punches him, turns it to ice, punches him over and over and over. Time resumes, and when time resumes, Shigaraki sees a fist and gets punched over and over and over with flurry fists, and gets sent flying back. He screeches out in pain. And this is when a portal appears, a black goo, a person in a suit. And he's like, who is this? And this is when All Might bursts out the doors, because he ended up saving like what's it called, Ida. And he told Ida to go up to alert the pros for backup. Which this is when All Might sees Deku in a different state than before. He can still recognize that Deku because of his costume, but he sees him going to fight against All for One. All for One. So you beat my successor and killed the Nomu. And this is when Deku starts laughing maniacally and says, come forth the world! And his stand appears and he just goes charging. And this is when he charges, like, he goes charging headfirst towards All for One, which All Might gets wide, like his eyes widen as he gets flashbacks from when his master died, I guess All for One. And he tries to stop Deku, but he says, and he starts, and this is when he says Mura Mura Mura, and the stand like goes headfirst towards All for One. He says it's punching him over. He just starts punching All for One repeatedly at like max speed, to the point where you can see after images of like the fists and arms, like the arms and fists of like the stand, and it just looks like he has multiple arms at the same time, punching it super fast, over and over, repeatedly. And he's using hormone overdrive, so it starts melting like fabric, clothing, and destroys All For One's mask. And he just gets punched full force. And this is when Deku shoots a laser at All For One, and then turns partially hit All For One to ice, and kicks the ice part, and it shatters the ice part. And this is when he's like, he pulls out like knives. It's like, come forth, the world time stop. And he stops time. He throws a bunch of knives. And he says, resume time. So when time resumes, All For One gets impaled by thousands of knives. Like 100, like 50 knives. And All For One's like groaning in pain. And this is when All Might's like, kid, you need to chillax. He says this, kid, you need to calm down. And this is when he realizes Deku looks different. He's more taller. He sounds like an adult. Because unbeknownst to him, he's actually the incarnation of Dio. So how his quirk really works is, if he loses control of his mind, he gets covered by bloodlust, Dio will will take over his body, kind of like the Nine Tails fight, kind of like how the Nine Tails fight against what's his name, the Nine Tails fight went against on the bridge with Kabuto and that snake dude, I forgot his name. And it kind of goes like that, but for Dio in his base form Dio, part 3, and this is when he says, I'm over heaven, and starts punching All For One repeatedly, laughing, saying Muda Muda Muda, and pulls out a giant tractor, slamming on top of All For One, and just punching repeatedly. But All For One didn't die from it, he just got injured a lot. This one, alright, kid, you need to calm down. And he realizes Deku's not in control of his body anymore, it's something else controlling him. So All For One's like, Texas Smash! Which he's like, the world! And time just stops, and he just punches All For One, All Might in the face, hard, full force. And this is when, and he resumes time, and he starts laughing. But this is when Tokyo stabs Deku right in between the throat area. He of course regenerates, but passes out, and his body reverts back to Deku, his Deku form. And he's like, "What happened?" And he realizes he did this, and he starts crying, realizing he almost killed All Might. And this is when people realize that he wasn't in control of his body. He says he was taken to this place where he saw a man. Deku drew to the best of his abilities, and they ended up he ended up getting taken by the cops. They had someone who had a quirk who could imagine could take a description of someone and create an exact replica of a painting or photo of them and how they look. And he's Officer Hisashi's there to answer questions. I don't know his name is Hisashi, but the guy who's the lie detector quirk. He asks questions. So to Deku's saying, "Were you doing intentionally?" He's like, "No, no, no." And it's true, 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 and stuff. And then they see a photo of Dio, and he says that's the man he was talking to. And they're surprised. They don't know who it is. No records of him, and they're just so confused. So of course, the school gets shut down for about a week or two. Actually, no, they don't get shut down. But after the USJ events, they go back to school, which everyone just sees Deku. And Todoroki actually was the one who watched Deku just go full ballistic mode on All For One, just saying Muda Muda. Even when he was in control, he just saw how fast he was and how Todoroki could never do anything. So we eventually skip over to the what's that called? The freaking the sports festival. So we of course have the sports festival happening. Everyone's excited for it. And Deku, of course, is also excited for it. So eventually the sports festival comes around. And as the sports festival comes around, they have to do... Alright, let's say the sports... And then a week or two passes by. And finally, it's the day of the sports festival. Which Deku... It's the race. The first thing first is they get past the robots, which Deku just says, "Come forth the world," and he just flies around shooting lasers at the robots. He passes by the obstacle course by just floating. He also turns the ropes. He shoots the ropes, and what he does is pretty unfair. He just shoots the ropes to make them weaker using his lasers, and he just flies around, and he eventually lands back onto the ground towards the minefield. And Deku is big one because he sees how these are mines. So he goes T-posing kind of, and he just flies down, his eyes staring at the floor, and shoots his lasers at the ground, and just dragged on for like about 5 miles, and boom, all the like C4 explodes into one combusted explosion, everyone flying away. And Deku makes it to like the 100-point headband thing. No, let me finish that. He heads to the finish line and he wins. Then comes the cavalry battle, which everything goes the same except for Deku's part. He has the same people on his team, and the sports like the cavalry battle happens, but no one's gonna be able to touch Deku. He just like come forth, time stop. He moves everyone. He could stop time and restart it over and over just so no one can touch him. And he of course has a million-point headband. Which one of the fights that happens? The first fight is Tokyo versus Kirishima, which Kirishima loses because Tokyo trained his sword ability, light sword, and made 3 different light swords that explode, and he covers Kirishima's around Kirishima's head with mist, black mist. He still breathes, he just can only see blackness, like darkness, I mean. And what Bro creates is like a shadow hammer, just smacks Kirishima on the head, sending him flying off the stage. One of the next fights is actually Deku versus Shinzo, which Shinzo mind controls Deku, but Deku goes Dio. This is when he starts laughing and transforms into Dio. But Deku has more control this time, so he looks kind of like Dio, but has Deku's eyes, meaning he has control over Dio now, or kind of like Dio. So then he teleports, he says time stop in front of Shinzo. This one says Muda, just punches him over and over using his stand, like boom, 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 boom. A bunch of fishes hits and fly, a bunch of flurry of attacks just hit Shinzo. He just knocked off the stage, bruised up. And he's like, I'll maybe put a good word in for you. I mean, it didn't work for me, but it could work on someone else. You could become a great hero. And Shinzo's like, who the hell is this kid? So one of the next fights is Mina and Bakugo. Which Mina, we don't know how this is going. So basically, Bakugo just uses explosion after explosion towards Mina. She creates acid, just throwing it at Bakugo's clothes, melting in him and burning him a little bit. And she throws acid in his eyes, which was no acid, which didn't blind him. Just covered his eyes, and he's like scratching his eyes. And when he looks up, he gets punched by Mina. But Bakugo eventually propels himself so he doesn't fly off the stage and uses a full explosion at Mina's face, and she just gets sent flying. And in this version, Deku actually kind of has a crush on Mina. So yeah, that's a ship. Mina x Deku. And if you guys hate it, I hate you too. Okay, I'm joking. But basically, Mina's crying because, like, she's not crying, but she's like bummed out she lost. But Deku cheers her up. So, and then the next fight is Todoroki against. It's like all the rest of the fights happen like in canon except the Kirishima fight with the metal guy. And then the next fight is the final 3s. Todoroki against Deku, which Deku's like, come forth the world, time stop. And he's just like, he says, Muda, just punches Todoroki a bunch of times. And once he like got, kind of like how Kiwin, how he got turned into a donut. Except this time, he doesn't turn Todoroki to a donut, but he says time resume. And this is when everyone sees how he let it fist on Todoroki. Todoroki thinks that did nothing, and boom, gets sent flying. He coughs out a little bit of blood, and he's like unconscious. He leaves an imprint of his body onto the wall. So the next fight is Bakugo and let's say Bakugo and who would I feel like Bakugo. Here's gonna be a funny fight. Let's say Bakugo and Mineta, and actually no, let's say Bakugo and the metal guy. No, Bakugo and Yaoyorozu, because in this canon version, she won against Tokuyami after seeing how his quirk worked. And she creates a cannon, tries to shoot at Bakugo, but Bakugo like parries and just shoots like a full explosion, and she gets sent flying off stage. And Bakugo's next, the next fight is Bakugo against Deku, and Deku's like, all right, hormone over. He's like Deku charges, Deku charges Bakugo, and Bakugo is like tries to dodge. He says time stop the world, and he just says punches Bakugo over and over using Hamon one time, and turns Bakugo partially into ice and just punches the Bakugo in the stomach, sending him. And then he resumes time. And Bakugo gets sent flying off stage, and Bakugo wins, which Todoroki gets like third place. Bakugo gets second, and Deku gets first. So yeah. Also, after All Might actually saw how Deku was fighting and actually asked Deku a question, saying if he could make his quirk stronger, would he? And Deku said this, yeah. And in this version of events, let's say All Might almost gave his quirk to someone, but he realized that they were too weak for his. He realized they were too weak, so he decided to give his quirk to Deku. And Deku in this version doesn't think about anyone else, but he thinks about himself for a second. And he's like, sure, I'll take it. So Deku now has the world and all and one for all. So All Might trains Deku for like after sources of like how to use his quirk, and in this version Deku just learns how to use full Cali 500%, because in this version of it he's stronger, he can regenerate, so he's just like able to use it full power off the back. He knows how to use Danger Sense, Smoke Screen, Fajin, all these quirks, and then he's like, and then this is yeah, so he's overpowered now. Just to speed up this what if so I can produce the next what if, I'm gonna say what if, no, actually no, let's get time skip. So let's say everything goes like in canon, except the fight against like freaking like the camp arc that gets scared, doesn't have anything interesting to happen, so I don't cover it. Same thing with the Stain arc, doesn't happen at all. Ida dies still. Yeah. But let's have a time skip against the fight against All For One. So this is when the war starts to first happen, and All For One escapes. He in this version of events, he doesn't need Shigaraki. Instead, he creates a new body for himself, and this body just makes him stronger. So he just parries around attacks, and this is when we get to, like, the iconic scene against Deku and Bakugo and Deku working together. Except Deku has a stand and All For One, and One For All. So they're charging, and Bakugo gets out of the way, but Bakugo's about to get impaled. But Deku gets out of the way, and he gets stabbed right in the heart, which stops his heart, and All For One feels this. Because in this version of events, since he's not in the Dio form, he can't regenerate, so his heart just stops. But when he blinks, he sees a clock spinning rapidly fast, and when it hits the next, like a hand clock, right? Spinning so fast, and when it hits the next hand, it shatters. And this is when Deku falls to the ground, and it's like, let's say like 5 minutes pass. Bakugo almost dies. His arms destroyed from explosions he's been using. All For One just like used the K on Bakugo's arms. And Bakugo's about to lose both his arms. Here he lost one of his arms, and he's like, "This is how it ends. Damn it, Deku! Why did you save me if I'm gonna die anyway?" And this is when he says, and this is when he hears something laughing, saying, "I've gone over heaven." And this is when Deku says, "The world over heaven. Stop time infinity." And time stops, and Deku just flies down, punching All For One over and over, using the stand, and uses like full Kelly to kick, and then he uses like he uses the kicks, and like he uses his stand to punch, like Muda, using like One For All. He uses Fajin to kick away stuff. And then time resume. He says time resume, and All For One just gets punched thousands of times, and then we get another time skip. We just get these fights breaking out, and everyone's recording, seeing how Deku's just fighting. His arms get destroyed, they regenerate. He looks completely different. His skin, he looks like Dio over heaven, basically, without the hair looking weird. But he just dodges every single attack. All For One dishes things like, "Zawaldo!" Punch him over and over. And Zawaldo's like, "Mura," and just everything, just All For One's like in agony, saying, "How can this happen? How can a kid?" It's like, One For All, full Cali, 1,000,000% Fajin blast. He says this, not Fajin blast. He says full Cali, 1,000,000%. He says kill away. He says over heaven smash, and this light appears over Deku's hand, like this colorful light, kind of like how the One Punch Man opening goes in season 1. You know how it goes like fire and that colorful fist. You know what I'm talking about? If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But let's just say it looks like that. Basically, his fist gets covered in aura, and he punches all for one. Boom! The King of the Demons just falls, collapses, and coughs of blood. He passes out, and then Deku reverts back to his normal form, and it's revealed he took all that damage that he previously took, reverted back to his normal body, which Deku is covered in bruises, scars, cuts. His hand looks deformed almost, but he's still standing. He says, "I'm still standing because I am here." We get a time skip of Deku being the number 1 hero, and he goes by the hero name Dio. And everyone just knows him by the hero name Dio. There's no more crimes happening because everyone's too afraid after seeing what happened in his heyday. And eventually, we get to Deku marrying Mina. And that is what would happen if Deku had the world. Without further ado, let me know if you want to see what if Deku had Star Platinum, and let me know what I could do better so I can drop so let me know I can do better when I do the what if Deku would had Star Platinum, what I could do better for that. Because if you don't like something I did here, just let me know in the comments, and please actually watch it. I know most of you guys don't watch it. I get want to do views for my viewers. Just please try to watch my videos, guys. I'm begging you. But yeah, thank you and peace out.